Okay, imagine this. You're in a room, a high-stakes closed-door meeting, and over here you've got Jeff Bezos, from Amazon, and over there, the late Steve Jobs, Apple. Suddenly, news flashes. Samsung's just announced a hot new product. Bezos, immediately leans forward. First thing you ask, what are consumers saying? What's the buzz? But Jobs, almost at the same time, just kind of smiles, right? And says, I don't care. We're launching something amazing soon. That'll get their attention. It's a neat thought experiment, but it's more than that, isn't it? It really highlights these two profoundly different ways companies think about strategy. So on one side, you have what's called the outside-in approach, the OI approach. This one's all external. Focus on the market. Always asking, what do customers need? What are competitors up to? How do we fit in and win? And then the flip side, the inside-out approach, or IO. This is totally driven from within. Internal strengths, unique tech, what we do best. It asks, what can we invent? How can our special sauce create something brand new? How do we change the game?
For ages, people have debated, which one's better. Or can you maybe do both? And for this deep dive, that's exactly what we're digging into. We're looking at this really fascinating study. It's packed with data from the International Marketing Review, came out in 2019 by Yoel Asseraf and Aviv Shoham. And it looks specifically at these strategies, but in the context of international marketing, which, let's face it, is super complex, often risky. So what's the mission here then?
Well, what's really compelling, I think, about this research is that it gives us this comprehensive look. It's theory-based, but also empirical. It examines the impact of both OI and IO strategies happening at the same time on how well companies actually perform internationally. So we're going to explore not just, which one maybe works better globally, but also the specific capabilities each approach helps build. And crucially, how those capabilities then influence big decisions, like adapting your products for different countries. That's huge.
Right. And as we get into these two strategic mindsets, the findings are, well, they're pretty striking, especially for global business. This study, it surveyed 202 Israeli firms, all active internationally. And it found that the outside-in OI approach, the market-focused one, actually boosts international performance more significantly than the inside-out IO approach.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I might have guessed the internal innovation, the IO, would be the powerhouse. But this data, especially for global stuff, it makes you pause.
It really does. And the study digs into why that might be the case for international markets specifically. It showed the OI approach really drives the development of what they call exploratory marketing capabilities, or MCs. Think of these as a company's skill in really diving deep into new markets, building relationships there, researching completely new customers and competitors. It's about exploration. And here's the kicker, really. These exploratory MCs, their positive effect on performance was found to be twice as strong as the impact of exploratory technological capabilities, TCs, which come from that IO approach. The advanced R&D, the patents, the groundbreaking product ideas, still important, but less impactful on performance internationally, according to this.
Twice as strong. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So if OI builds these powerful marketing capabilities, these MCs, how does that actually play out? Like in strategic decisions firms have to make globally.
Yeah, so this connects directly to a really practical, long-standing debate. Should you standardize your product globally or adapt it for each market? This research links OI and IO right to that question. It shows that those exploratory MCs, the ones flowing from the outside in thinking, they positively influence product adaptation. So what does that mean? Well, firms that are good at this market exploration, they're just much better equipped to figure out local needs and tweak their products accordingly. And that adaptation itself was shown to boost strategic performance.
Ah, okay. So it's about understanding the local context better.
Exactly. And we've seen this happen, right? Think about eBay in China. They went in thinking their global platform was fine as is, and they struggled. Compare that to Yahoo. Japan, which succeeded through intense localization, really adapting, or even Campbell Soup in Russia. They saw an opportunity but completely missed the cultural preference for making soup from scratch. It shows you need that market understanding, that adaptation. It's not just about spotting a gap.
That makes a lot of sense. But it does raise a question for me. Is it strictly one or the other? Do companies have to choose Team OI or Team IO? Or is there room for both?
That's a really important point. And the study looked at that too. It found that while OI and IO are definitely distinct approaches, they're not mutually exclusive. Not at all. In fact, they found quite a few firms, a significant number, that were successfully using high levels of both at the same time. So yes, a blended approach seems possible, and it's definitely happening out there in successful international companies. It adds some nuance. It's not just black and white.
Okay, so building on that idea of a blended approach, the study seems to offer some pretty practical advice, maybe a sequence, for managers dealing with global strategy, or even for, say, a venture capitalist looking at international investments. So what's the takeaway for you listening? The research suggests that, yeah, both approaches have value, maybe especially just domestically. But for international success, the advice is kind of zoom out first. Start with that outside-in perspective. Really prioritize gathering that market intelligence, understanding the customer deeply, building the flexibility to adapt. For VCs, maybe that means really grilling companies on whether they've done that deep international homework. Then, once you've got that solid foundation, that big picture understanding, then zoom in. Bring your inside-out strengths to bear. Leverage your unique tech, your innovation engine. Maybe you're to disrupt the market based on that solid OI grounding. So it's like market understanding first, then apply your internal genius.
Precisely. And this deep dive hopefully gives manager stakeholders a clearer framework for thinking about where to put resources for international growth. Because international marketing inherently carries more risk, more uncertainty than staying domestic, right? So maybe think about this. How might consciously applying this zoom out, then zoom in framework, really prioritizing that market understanding upfront, how might that fundamentally shift your approach? How could it change how you compete and ultimately succeed on that global stage?